Sarah, let's set a scene. It's February 16th, 1943, in a secret German technical facility in Tunisia.
This is right after the Battle of Kasserine Pass, where Rommel's forces had just handed the inexperienced American troops a major defeat.
Exactly. And German technical intelligence teams, scouring the wreckage, found a prize, an intact American radio set, an SCR-508, pulled from a destroyed M4 Sherman tank.
What was the feeling among the German engineers? They must have been curious.
They were, but they were also operating under a cloud of their own propaganda. For years, they'd been told that American technology was inferior, just mass-produced junk.
Created by a nation of shopkeepers, right? They expected something crude, maybe a copy of an older German design.
Precisely. Yet they had this nagging question. If American radios were so primitive, why did Allied forces maintain perfect communication across impossible distances? Their ground units and air support coordinated with a precision that was baffling.
So, an Ober-engineer, a top designer named Klaus Hermann, gets his screwdriver, and the entire team leans in.
He opens the sealed metal case, and in that moment, everything they believed about the war and about their enemy was shattered.
What was the first thing they noticed?
The construction. Before they even saw a single wire, they were stunned by the case itself. It was heavy-gauge steel, painted olive drab, and every single seam, every connector, was protected by a thick rubber gasket.
So it was waterproof.
Completely. It was designed to be proof against water, dust, shock, and extreme temperatures. Hermann noted in his report that the build quality exceeded anything they were producing for their own military.
So much for mass-produced junk.
And then they looked inside. That was the real shock.
What did they see?
Standardization. Perfect, terrifying standardization. Every component was identical, interchangeable, and clearly designed for assembly by semi-skilled workers on a massive assembly line. There were no hand tool marks, no artisan adjustments.
It wasn't a piece of craftsman's equipment. It was a product.
It was a product, designed to be built by the millions. But it was the type of product that left them breathless.
Okay, so what was the core technology that stunned them?
The crystals, Sarah. A specialist in frequency control, a man named Hans Schreiber, examined the channel selector. He was expecting simple, maybe even cheap components.
What did he find?
He found 10 precision-ground quartz crystal oscillators, 10 of them.
Let's break that down for a moment. What does a crystal oscillator mean in a military radio?
It means stability. It means the frequency is locked in, solid as a rock. You turn the knob to channel 3 and you are on channel 3, instantly, perfectly.
No drift? No tuning the signal?
None. In German radios, changing frequencies was a complex, manual process. An operator had to adjust multiple controls, maybe even swap out coils, and spend several minutes retuning. The American tank commander just turned a knob.
And you said there were 10 of them.
10. In Germany, a single precision crystal like that was a rare, expensive, laboratory-grade item, reserved for high-command units or specialized aircraft. The Americans were putting 10 of them in every single tank. Schreiber counted them twice. He couldn't believe it.
It wasn't just the crystals, though, was it? The entire broadcast method was different.
Completely different. The Germans, like most of the world, used AM, or amplitude modulation.
Which is what you get in a classic AM radio. It's susceptible to static, engine noise, and interference.
Exactly. The American radio operated on frequency modulation, FM.
FM. Static free. Crystal clear.
Yes, German engineers had, of course, considered FM for military use, but they rejected it. It was deemed far too complex, too component-heavy, and far too expensive to ever be mass-produced for field use.
And yet, here it was, in a standard American tank.
It wasn't a theory, it was a finished product. And it had circuits these engineers had only dreamed of, like automatic frequency control.
What does that do?
It means the radio tunes itself. German radios required constant manual adjustment to compensate for temperature changes or power fluctuations. The American radio did it all automatically. The engineers in that lab were looking at a piece of equipment that was, in their estimation, 5 to 10 years ahead of their own.
So Klaus Hermann, the lead engineer, he starts to realize this isn't just a better radio. He's realizing it's a completely different industrial philosophy. This radio is revealing a truth about American manufacturing that is far more terrifying than any new tank or bomber.
So the crystals were the key, weren't they?
They were the key. Schreiber, the crystal specialist, did the math. He calculated that to produce one crystal, just one, to the American specifications would require 40 hours of a highly skilled German technician's time in a lab.
And the Americans were putting 10 in every radio and had thousands of tanks.
The math was horrifying. The Americans were producing millions of these precision crystals every year. The Germans had to ask, where are they getting an army of master technicians to do this?
And what was the answer?
The answer was the most disturbing part. They weren't using master technicians at all. They had industrialized the entire process.
What does that mean?
It meant that in factories in Chicago and Fort Wayne, thousands of semi-skilled workers, mostly women, were operating specialized automated grinding machines. They were using optical comparators to measure, not trained eyes. They had turned a laboratory art into an industrial assembly line. This new philosophy, it extended to maintenance as well, didn't it?
It did. The Germans were horrified when they looked at the construction. The radio was modular.
Meaning?
The transmitter, the receiver, the power supply, they were all separate, replaceable blocks. If a radio failed in a German tank, you needed a highly trained electronics expert to come to the field, open it up, diagnose the problem, and perform delicate repairs.
How did the Americans handle a failure?
An untrained tank crewman would simply identify the failed module, unplug it, and plug in a spare. The tank was back online in minutes. The broken part was just sent back to a depot to be fixed or thrown away.
It's a disposable, replaceable system.
It is. And then they found the technical manuals. This, for the German engineers, was the final insult.
Why?
The German manuals were complex, written for experts. The American manual was printed on high-quality paper with clear diagrams and simple numbered steps. It assumed the operator had zero technical knowledge.
They weren't training technicians. They were building idiot-proof equipment.
Precisely. The Germans designed brilliant, complex equipment that required brilliant, complex operators. The Americans designed brilliant, simple equipment that could be used by anyone. And they could build millions of them.
And this realization was only confirmed as the war went on and they captured more equipment.
This was just the beginning. Soon, they captured an SCR-300, the famous walkie-talkie,
which was also an FM radio. A portable, battery-powered, 18-pound FM radio. The Germans were stunned. Their own portable sets weighed over 40 pounds, used AM, and needed a separate 20-pound battery pack.
Then they captured the SCR-299 in Sicily.
That one was a true monster. It was a complete, long-range mobile communications station, installed in a truck, with its own power generator.
Crystal-controlled, high power, and able to switch frequencies in minutes.
The Germans had equivalent technology, but it was installed in fixed buildings, with massive antenna systems. The Americans had put the entire command post on wheels.
So the Germans finally saw the whole picture.
They saw a web, a complete, interconnected system, all based on crystal-controlled FM, from the handy-talkie in a sergeant's hand, to the radio in the tank, to the command truck, to the airplane. Every level could talk to every other level, clearly and reliably. So Klaus Hermann and his team started analyzing not just the radios, but the American capacity to make them.
Yes, and the numbers they reported back to Berlin were apocalyptic. Let's just talk about the crystals.
The component that Germany could barely produce.
By late 1943, German quartermasters estimated they needed 5 million precision crystals for their entire war effort. Their total annual production capacity? About 200,000.
It would take them over a decade to meet their own needs.
What were the Americans producing?
Intelligence estimated the Americans were producing 30 million crystals annually.
30 million. That's not a gap, that's a different universe.
It is. And then radios. At peak capacity, all of German industry, for all branches of the military, produced about 15,000 radio sets a month.
And the Americans?
American factories were producing over 100,000 military radio sets every single month. Herman's report stated that the U.S. could produce enough radios to equip 1,000 divisions. They only fielded 90.
The surplus capacity was almost unlimited.
It meant radios were disposable. It meant constant improvement. It meant that every American unit was saturated with communications technology that the Germans simply could not match or even comprehend on an industrial scale. So Hermann and his team compiled all of this: the technical analysis, the production numbers, the industrial philosophy, a massive 200-page report.
Yes, it was a devastating document. It was classified most secret and sent directly to the Wehrmacht High Command in Berlin.
What did it conclude?
It concluded that America possessed radio technology that was 5 to 10 years ahead of Germany. It concluded that the American system of mass production, standardization, and modularity was an industrial philosophy that Germany did not possess and could not match.
It wasn't just a warning. It was a death sentence.
Hermann estimated that just to match American radio production, Germany would need to build 30 new specialized factories, train 50,000 new workers, and invest resources equivalent to the entire annual budget of the Luftwaffe. And even then, they didn't have the raw materials, like the high-quality quartz.
The report landed in Berlin. What was the response from High Command?
Silence.
Silence.
Absolute silence. No new factories were authorized. No crash programs were initiated. The implications were simply too devastating to acknowledge. They couldn't face the truth.
And that truth was?
That the war was already lost. Not on the battlefields of Russia or the beaches of Normandy, but in the factories of Chicago and Detroit.
Hermann wrote another report later in the war, just as Berlin was falling, a final testament.
He did. He wrote that Germany's defeat was inevitable from the moment they opened that first SCR-508 in Tunisia. He said those crystals, those circuits, that modular design, it all revealed that America had industrialized warfare itself.
He said Germany was trying to fight an industrial war using craftsmen's methods.
Exactly. Germany had brilliant engineers and brave soldiers, but theory doesn't win a modern war. Production wins wars.
The side that can build more, faster, and simpler.
The side that can build millions of precision components, not thousands. The German technicians who opened that radio were not just looking at a piece of electronics, they were looking at the future of warfare. And they knew, in that moment, that they had absolutely no way to compete.